John Swift was born and raised in the small town of Oxford, Ohio. His work highlights include delivering donuts for the original Mrs. Beasley's Bakery to the sorority houses on the campus of Miami University, baling hay for local farmers, laboring at a nearby steel mill, and cleaning up construction sites. And when it came to football, he was a die-hard Bengals fan, working the sidelines as a medic. His love of building came from his father, an architect. In 1968, John, at the age of 23, began his own construction company.
When John was 13, he went to the Methodist church camp, and rumor has it that somebody at church camp brought a whole bunch of firecrackers and set them off at the most inappropriate times. Rumor has it that it was John Swift. I started the conversation by asking Janie, I said, "Janie, what do you love about your husband?" And as only Janie could say it, that he brings me coffee in the morning and he treats me like a queen. And then I asked her, "What are you most proud of John?" And she said, "Well, the thing that I'm most proud of John is that he's funny, he's cute, he watches his money, and I hated his damn mustache." But what you really need to know about this man is the profound integrity that he has as a human being. And the thing that I love about John as a good Democrat, that he's the most rational Republican I've ever met.
In 1979, he moved his family to Sarasota, Florida, carrying with him his considerable knowledge of building high school sports stadiums. That knowledge of stadium construction led to the beginning of a relationship with the Sarasota County School Board that continues today.
I never knew John that well. I didn't know him at all until I got on the board of Argus. And matter of fact, the only thing I knew about John was I thought he had some connection to God, because I had his signs all over town, but they were in front of churches that he was building. And I think he built every church in Sarasota, especially in the out east of town.
From building churches, building schools, the Siesta Key Pavilion, fire stations, the St. Armand's parking garage, commercial projects, roundabouts, parks, and the Legacy Trail. John F. Swift Construction has become a fixture in the Sarasota community.
We were still transitioning from the old building and thinking about the plans and getting ready for the new building. And I had this idea that I wanted to have an amphitheater in the middle of the courtyard. It was not a part of the blueprint. I mentioned the idea to John and others. Needless to say, the amphitheater has now become the focal point of Booker High School Visual Performing Arts. The students fondly call it the eye of the tornado. And then there was another time when he shared his expertise during that same renovation period. As we began to reform and go back to the way things used to be here at Booker High School, there was some community support and going back and revisiting our law academy. At one time, it was a magnet here, but then it had gone dormant. I remember saying to John, I would love to take one of these classrooms and convert it to our very own courtroom. And he made sure, without question, that that dream became a reality. I remember in this same room, our College and Career Center, that is my favorite room on campus. I remember having a conversation with John. John was thinking about how he can pour back into students, and he had this idea of possibly giving a scholarship to a student who considered majoring in engineering and at that time going to the University of Florida. That was in 2012-13 school year. It's been 10 years, and every year I can count on John pouring into the education of students with his resources by sponsoring that scholarship.
I don't remember the discipline. I remember it was there, but all I remember was all the great times he gave us, all the different variety of experience he provided us. So I just want to say thanks, Dad. You gave us a really good role model to follow. I'm really thankful that I have that blueprint to use in my own adulthood as a dad and for my kids. And I just want to say thanks. I'm blessed to call you Dad.
I first met John Swift well over a decade ago, specifically in 2012 when our local economy continued to be in the throes of the Great Recession. And at that time, John, the rest of the board of directors of Sable Palm Bank, and myself decided to come together as a team with the idea of rebooting Sable Palm Bank so we could be an institution that could look towards the future as opposed to continue to be held captive to the challenges of the past few years. And what we were able to accomplish over the next decade is nothing less than remarkable in terms of the individuals in the community we served, the small businesses, the payrolls that we funded, the capital we provided, the careers that we were able to create, and the value we were able to create for our shareholders. And throughout it all, every step of the way, John Swift was an integral part of what we accomplished. John took great time and pleasure in making sure that our facilities were continuing to be updated and look great, including the construction of our signature building in downtown Sarasota. So I still remember to this day, shortly after John and I met, and I asked John, why was being involved with a bank, why was being part of founding a bank important to him? And he thought for a moment and he reflected about being a young business person in Ohio and the time when he had a struggle making his own payroll. And he had a banker at the time who he went to and said, I'm gonna pay this money back. I'm good for it all, but I need to pay my employees. And that bank helped him, provided him a loan so he could make his payroll at the time. And John, as the years went by, got to the point where he didn't need that type of support anymore, but he realized that what a bank could do for a small business like him years ago, and more important to the small businesses in our local community today. It was an insight into John's mindset and the importance of never forgetting your roots in your community.
I really appreciate you making me go to work and on my summer vacations. I never looked forward to summer camp so much in my life. And I just want to thank you for everything you've done for me, and congratulations tonight.
Eddie and I both served on his board as well as his executive committee. And John became president in 2002. Wasn't a really good year to become president. There was a lot of issues going on, and Argus was facing a lot of problems with the finances and so on, because our membership was, the original members were passing away because Argus was already 20 years old approximately. We had just had 9/11 happen a few months earlier, so it was already a troublesome year to start with. We had the 2050 comp plan that was a major issue that we hadn't gotten completed yet. We also had a moratorium that the county was proposing that we're trying to deal with that, as well as Argus itself. The finances with our fund was not doing well. So we were gonna have to try and come up with other ideas, according to John, because I said to him, what about raising dues? He said, hell no, I'll be tarred and feathered. And I said, well.
He probably would have been.
Yeah. So Eddie came up with a good suggestion. And what was that, Eddie?
The Lifetime Achievement Award. We were already having a golf tournament, which raising some funds, but not enough to subsidize the investments we were losing on our major fund. And so came up with the Lifetime Achievement Award and became very successful at the very first year.
And so we had our first Lifetime Achievement Award. Wendell Kent was our honoree, and it was in John's first year as president.
It became more than just an award. It was like visiting old Sarasota. People that had not been out. I mean, they'd retired. We're not socially active as they used to be, and it seemed like that first award. We saw people we hadn't seen in a long time. They came out to give Wendell their respects, and they had such a good time. They said, "I hope we continue it," and we did. And it's been going on, like I said, ever since 2002, and we've been very fortunate to have some great nominees.
Our favorite thing about Dad is hands down his sense of humor. He never short on laughs. No matter where we are, there's always something funny to be seen, and he will absolutely make the best of it.
The best things always start with, "Hey, watch this." And you know something good's coming. There's always a good laugh.
And oftentimes it's never at our expense. And I think that has something to do with the fact that we are the favorites.
If I were to tell people that they need to meet John Swift, I would say you're meeting a guy who's very unassuming, who's very intelligent, that's looking at you and kind of reading you a little bit and reading your authenticity and if you're who you're trying to portray yourself to be. But at the end of the day, when you get to know him, you get a guy who's totally loyal until you lose that trust to him. You need to make sure that you are who you are to him, because he will support you to the end. That's the kind of John Swift that I see.
I think right when Tom was elected sheriff, he came to a small group of us and he started talking about this foundation, and it's there to help the families that are in a crisis or distress that work for the sheriff's office. And you know, we started talking to John, and it was a very small group, and it was very daunting. And I think Tom came to us a number of times, and we'd talk about it, then it'd kind of go away, and then Tom would be back at us. I gotta help my people. And you know, John was really involved, but you know, he didn't want to be at the forefront of it. But since day one, John has supported this foundation with his time if we needed it, and certainly his financial resources. And we've probably helped just an amazing amount of folks, whether a trailer burnt down or a child took ill. So I just can't thank John enough for the support he's given on that to the sheriff's office.
You know, it's hard to make fun of John Swift because this is a guy who's solid, but you know, being a cop at the time when I met him and a former cop, you know, I recognized when John would come to events and we'd be together, I was like, he's got something in his pockets. And as I got to know him better, I took the opportunity to pat him down one day. And he had all these little airline Jack Daniels bring into whatever function he was at. And
John has never been afraid to enjoy a splash of good Tennessee Brown.
So, secrets revealed on John Swift.
The Swift Family Foundation was a passion of my dad's to be able to start, to be able to give back to the community, and we were able to do that in 2004. He and I took some of the profits that we had made from our company, and were able to seed the foundation with a very small amount. And over time, though, we've had that grow, and we've been able to give back to a lot of different organizations. I know my dad is particularly fond of organizations that give people an opportunity to succeed. So some of the lower income or the more challenged individuals, he wants to give them a hand up so they can be successful. And then I believe we have given, since 2004, over $1.6 million away to the different charities that we support.
John's support and Janie's support of Teen Court has been invaluable. They have supported them for years, knowing that it does such good work with young people in the community. But more recently, when a program was started at Riverview High School for a construction trades academy, it would not have been possible without John Swift Construction. If John had not created that culture within that company, and as he continues on in his daily life about how important it is to give back to the community, it makes them so special. They are really some of the good guys in the industry, and it's just been such an honor to work with John and work with the company. They're just definitely one of the good guys.
John, whether you know it or not, you kind of stepped in the role of mentor for me. You're one of those guys that if you ask me to do something or you suggest something to me, usually I'm going to do it. And that's just, John's roots are my roots. We're both from Ohio. John was more of a farming guy. I came up through the construction ranks, but John also spent a good amount of time with his father at the University of Miami in Oxford. And we're just lucky to have a person like John Swift in our community. When I say something is the gold standard, John Swift in my business is a construction manager, general contractor. John's been the gold standard.
We would like to make a toast to Dad.
To Dad.
To Dad. And I like to add into this a little bit.
I think we've said enough.
Fine.